I'm okay.
My name is Raymond Bola Brown.
Hi, my name is Fred Amata, and you are on to Souq News.
If you are watching this channel for the first time, make sure you continue to watch it because this is Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. Actually, I don't know. I really enjoyed the little moment I spent with you, and I think with more of this.
Souq News. Here's the Souq News, who had the courage to transcend a locked-off camera and actually have a conversation with a human being. It's a pleasure, Souq News. Thank you very much.
The challenge of governance is to see how we can leverage what is on the ground and convert this.
Russia, China are gaining entry.
The challenge of governance is to see how we can leverage what is on the ground and convert this to wealth for the people.
Russia, China are gaining entry into Africa, and it would appear that some Western countries are losing out.
You're working as an expatriate worker, then you're paid in your currency. But then if you must spend those money, you need to convert those money to the local currency to spend.
For Social Security to work, we need to know exactly how many we are. We don't have a precise number. We need to know exact location of people.
When we address this exchange rate volatility, we will see definitely cost of goods and services will come down.
From a security point of view, we should employ the technology to ensure that we can track individuals and goods within the continent.
This is Early Exchange with Femi Ayodele.
You know, the Early Exchange is all about shaping policy and advancing development. With our conversation today, we're set to give you the best of programming.
And Blessing Aiche.
We do hope that you enjoy every time you spend with us here today. The world needs peace. The world needs to come to a round table and find solutions to the pockets of troubles.
Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Yes, it's another beautiful day. What's a beautiful day today is quite historic, you know, a day to celebrate love. Today is Valentine's Day and also Ash Wednesday. What a combination there. These are things we'll also talk about briefly, but this is Early Exchange, and I am Femi Ayodele. As you know, the Early Exchange is all about shaping policy and advancing development. With our conversation today, we'll be looking at a series of protests ongoing globally about the hike in the prices of goods and services. Farmers are protesting in India and in Poland. We'll make reference to that. Don't forget, you can be part of this conversation. The program, the idea is to have your voice being heard. And all you just have to do is to go on our social media platform, on our YouTube page, to make your comments and using the hashtag EarlyExtinct. Don't forget, you need to be heard, and that's why you just have to be part of this conversation. We're also going to look at the contribution of radio to community development in Nigeria. Yesterday was World Radio Day, and we're going to have that conversation. We're going to have a veteran broadcaster in the house to talk about the history of radio and how it started. Blessing is here, all set for Valentine. Even from the outfit, it's obvious. Good morning.
Very good morning. Happy Valentine's Day to you.
Yeah, you look radiant, set for Valentine.
Oh yes, I am.
Somebody told me that you're not looking like you're set for Valentine. I said, I have to touch your red. My blood is red. And I celebrate love.
You know, the problem of your blood is red cracks me up, because how do we see your blood?
Oh, interesting. It's a general knowledge.
Okay, that your blood is red.
Yeah.
But we're here with blue blood.
Yeah.
So we don't know.
No, it's a good day to celebrate love, you know, to show love to people. and not just to your family members or your loved ones, to everybody, your bosses, your co-workers, your neighbors, everybody, your clients, you know. There's always this perception it's a day for lovers. No, everybody should be celebrated as long as you have one thing to do with human existence, and so it's a day to celebrate her. So I celebrate you.
Thank you. I celebrate
and
you
interestingly,
too.
on the other hand, the beginning of the fast for Christians, you know, Ash Wednesday.
So, yeah, it's just like 40 days to Easter.
Yeah.
From now. Yeah, how time flies, but like Femi has already said, it's a day to show love to those who are connected to you, and it doesn't have to be your spouse alone. It could be those who bring business to you. So celebrate them. Valentine's Day is a day to show love to everyone. It's a day of selflessness because it dates back to the remembrance of Saint Valentine's for his selfless act that he actually demonstrated helping couples. So yours could be helping communities as a business. Are you doing your part as far as corporate social responsibility is concerned? Now today could just be that day when you think about it and do more to show love. Let's not leave it to be a day where we talk about love alone, because there are so many burning topics to look into as it concerns development in Nigeria and the world globally. Let's get now to the news studio where Juvi Ofiene is standing by to get you updated. Hello Juvi, good morning.
Hello and welcome to News Update. I'm Juvi Ofiene. The Nigerian government is teaming up with the World Bank to secure a $3 billion for the expansion of Nigeria's broadband infrastructure, aiming to lay an additional 120,000 kilometers of fiber optics cables. Nigeria's Minister of Communications, Innovation, Digital Economy, Dr. Bosun Tijani, reviewed this during a stakeholders engagement in Abuja, emphasizing the project's collaboration with private sector stakeholders. The minister highlighted the necessity of enhancing the nation's digital backbone to ensure affordable and widespread internet access for all citizens. In his remarks, World Bank Regional Director, West and Central Africa, Mr. Franz Dres-Gross, said the first phase of the project would involve laying 95,000 kilometer fiber optic across Nigeria. The initiative, expected to unfold over the next 3 years, will bridge the digital divide and boost Nigeria's digital services and connectivity landscape, as well as position the country as a regional hub for digital services in West Africa. Nigeria's Apex Bank, the Central Bank of Nigeria, has reported a significant uptick in total credit to the Nigerian economy, soaring by 44.8% year-on-year to reach 96.2 trillion naira at the close of 2023. According to the bank, this surge reflects increased lending to both government and private sectors, rising from 66.39 trillion naira in December 2022 to 92.18 trillion naira by December 2023. Similarly, government credit climbed by 36.6% to 33.67 trillion naira, while private sector lending surged by 49.8% to 62.51 trillion naira. Analysts, however, anticipate a continuation of the bank's tight monetary policy stance during the upcoming February 26th Monetary Policy Committee meeting to combat inflation, projected to average 21% for the year. Concerns persist regarding the potential impact of higher interest rates on government borrowing and economic activity. Away from Nigeria to the Middle East, India and the United Arab Emirates UAE have signed an agreement to establish a trade corridor linking Europe and India through the Middle East via sea and rail routes. When completed, the corridor is expected to span across the Arabian Sea, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Israel before finally connecting to Europe. Although specific details of the accord were not disclosed, the Indian Foreign Minister hailed the pact as a catalyst for enhancing bilateral cooperation between India and the UAE. The envisioned corridor, first proposed in September at the G20 summit in New Delhi, seeks to traverse the Arabian Sea, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Israel, and finally reach Europe. While the ministry's statement stresses collaboration between India and the UAE, it made no reference to others involved in the project. Despite this, Modi's meeting with the UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan underscores the deep-rooted ties between the two nations. When completed, the corridor is expected to span across the Arabian Sea, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Israel before finally connecting to Europe. Amidst a fragile economy that slipped into recession last year, Peruvian President Dina Boluarte has reshuffled her cabinet by appointing replacements to 4 key positions, including a new economy chief and energy and mining minister. The president, who assumed office in 2022, unveiled the changes during a televised ceremony in Lima. While economist Jose Arista was appointed as the new economy minister, succeeding Alex Contreras, Romulo Moncho was named as the new energy and mining minister, having previously served as the ministry's vice minister. Additionally, Walter Ashudillo was appointed as the new defense minister, and Juan Carlos Castro will assume the role of environment chief. And lastly, NVIDIA came close to surpassing Alphabet to become Wall Street's 3rd most valuable company on Tuesday, with the dominant AI chip maker achieving a market capitalization higher than Amazon's for the first time in 20 years. NVIDIA's share slipped 0.17%, resulting in a market value of $1.78 trillion, surpassing Amazon's $1.75 trillion value after the latest stock declined 2.15%. Meanwhile, Google owner Alphabet saw its stock dip 1.62%, leaving its market capitalization at $1.81 trillion. NVIDIA's growth has been fueled by the increasing demand for AI integration in products and services, leading to shortages in graphic processors. Mizuho raised its price target for NVIDIA stock, anticipating substantial AI upside as the company continues to dominate the high-end AI chip market. Despite Alphabet's efforts in AI, its stock faced a setback after its quarterly report failed to meet investors' expectations, while NVIDIA's market capitalization briefly surpassed Amazon's, reminiscent of 2002 when both companies were valued at under $6 billion. And that's all there is for now. Early exchange continues in a bit. I am Juvi Ofiene. Many thanks for watching.
All right, welcome back from the newsroom, and we must thank you, Juvi, for the news update. It's time for us to go on a short break now. We'll be right back to kick off our major conversation for today. Stay with us.
The challenge of governance is to see how we can leverage what is on the ground and convert this to wealth for the people.
Russia, China are gaining entry into Africa, and it would appear that some Western countries are losing out.
You're working as an expatriate worker, then you're paid in your currency. But then if you must spend those money, you need to convert those money to the local currency to spend.
For Social Security to work, we need to know exactly how many we are. We don't have a precise number. We need to know exact location of people.
When we address this exchange rate volatility, we will see definitely cost of goods and services will come down.
From a security point of view, we should employ the technology to ensure that we can track individuals and goods within the continent.
This early exchange with Femi Ayodele.
You know, the early exchange is all about shaping policy and advancing development. With our conversation today, we're set to give you the best of programming.
And Blessing Aiche.
We do hope that you enjoy every time you spend with us here today. The world needs peace. The world needs to come to a round table and find solutions to the pockets of troubles.
Early exchange, shaping policy, advancing development. The hearts of sub-Saharan Africa, where commerce meets progress. Welcome to Souq News, your source for business, economy, and development insight that drive nations forward. From the vibrant streets of Lagos, Africa's fastest economic hub, Souq News takes you on a journey of discovery, analyzing and reporting the facts that lay the foundation for growth and development. We don't just report the news, we create it. Souq News is more than a channel. It is a catalyst for change, spotlighting the stories that shape economies, inspire entrepreneurs, and fuel progress. Covering business, finance, technology, energy, and many more, Souq News provides a daily deep dive into the stories that mattered, interviews with industry titans, and analysis that empowers your understanding of economic landscape. Join us daily as we dissect, discuss, and deliver the most relevant and factual news on business and the economy. Souq News is your trusted guide, empowering you with the knowledge to make informed decisions.
I'm okay.
My name is Raymond Bola Brown.
Hi, my name is Fred Amata, and you are on to Souq News.
If you are watching this channel for the first time, make sure you continue to watch it, because this is Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. Actually, I don't know. I really enjoyed the little moment I spent with you, and I think with more of this.
Souq News. Here's the Souq News, who had the courage to transcend a locked off camera and actually have a conversation with a human being. It's a pleasure, Souq News. Thank you very much.
The challenge of governance is to see how we can leverage what is on the ground and convert this to wealth for the people.
Russia, China are gaining entry into Africa, and it would appear that some Western countries are losing out.
You're working as an expatriate worker, then you're paid in your currency. But then if you must spend those money, you need to convert those money to the local currency to spend.
For Social Security to work, we need to know exactly how many we are. We don't have a precise number. We need to know exact location of people.
When we address this exchange rate volatility, we will see definitely cost of goods and services will come down.
From a security point of view, we should employ the technology to ensure that we can track individuals and goods within the continent.
This early exchange with Femi Ayodele.
You know, the early exchange is all about shaping policy and advancing development. With our conversation today, we're set to give you the best of programming.
And Blessing Aiche.
We do hope that you enjoy every time you spend with us here today. The world needs peace. The world needs to come to a round table and find solutions to the pockets of troubles.
Early exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Glad to know you're still there with us. It's a season of protests. Globally, farmers are protesting due to the high cost of production and hiking prices of goods and services, which has led to some of them complaining about the cost of doing business. You're aware of the protest in India, in Poland, and in some parts of Africa, What will be the implication of this for farmers who are struggling to stay in business? And what will be the implication of this on the prices of goods and services? Let's hear what our guests will have to say. We are being joined by Emmanuel Albertson, who is the CEO, Trema Agro Services Limited. Emmanuel, glad to have you join us on the Early Exchange this morning.
Thank you so much. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, good to see you again.
Thank you.
All right. I would like to have your take on this. We're in a season of protests now. You have a series of protests ongoing globally. Farmers are protesting in India, in Poland, and in some part of Africa about the cost of production, which has also led to the hike in prices of goods and services. Give us your take on this. What do you think is the background to all this development? And then what will be the implication of all this? How did we get to this level where you have severe hike in prices of goods and services?
Okay. When we take a good look at countries like India, for example, their reasons for protest are stated in their protests, which is high cost of production in terms of diesel. Then we also talk about their take on the government in terms of minimum product price, which is just government buying from farmers at a particular minimum price, a price they are not meant to go below, which serve as a safety net for farmers. However, the farmers are saying we don't want it to just be on rice and wheat. We want it on other 23 crops. Then also pensions for farmers. Their protest also was talking about debt waivers. When you look at the current war let me say the war in Russia and Ukraine has had its impact in agriculture. Then when you now go to Europe, for example, their protest is the current new union regulation on carbon, that's the green for going green. Farmers are saying these laws are going to affect our business because you're saying we should reduce the use of insecticide or pesticides. You're also asking we should reduce the use of fertilizer. So they're saying reduce the risk of chemical pesticide by 50%, or reduce the use of fertilizer by also 50%. Now they want to increase organic farming. Now, organic farming in a way is quite expensive. Now, also this regulation is also affecting, which is what also affect importation and exportation. So it gives rooms for importation, and the farmers are thinking if this happens, it's going to affect our competition in the market. I had similar experience like that when I was doing rice processing in Lokoja. So by the time we buy rice from Ogirinya, for example, a part in Lokoja, sorry, in Kogi State, and we bring them to Lokoja to process. By the time we are done processing, because farmers in Benue have some incentives, they come to the market and squash the price. So let's say, for example, when we're selling our 50 kg or 100 kg, let me say 100 kg at 45,000 naira, then they are selling at 22,000 naira because of incentives. So farmers in Europe are saying, when you try to implement this regulation, it's going to give others who are using these chemicals, who are using fertilizers to boost their production, who are using mechanization to boost their production. It's going to have its effect on the market. Then we as the farmers, we're going to be at the losing side. And then, just like I mentioned earlier, then the war in Ukraine and Russia has tampered with the flow of production. We were talking about Ukraine and Russia, who are top 10 countries producing wheat. And wheat is consumed they're one of the largest exporter of wheat. And then in Nigeria here, how is it affecting us? Nigeria is the second consumer of wheat after Ethiopia in Africa, consuming 6.5 million tons. We're only producing 420 tons. So all of these factors are affecting reasons why farmers are protecting all over the world. Then also a shortage of food production, then hike in cost of production, especially diesel for production. And governments are removing subsidies in some of these countries that is affecting how farmers is affecting farmers' income, is affecting how production is done, and then the hike, and then government is trying to still regulate price, which is not favorable to these farmers.
All right, let's look at government trying to regulate price, which you said is not favorable to farmers. We understand that in other regions, there is a call for governments to regulate price. But in countries where that regulation already happens, the farmers are kicking against it. What's the challenge mostly? Is it about the yield? Maybe the yield is not enough, and that's why if they sell at the rate the government wants them to sell, they don't make enough.
Okay, like I said, it's basically more of cost of production. For Europe, for example, we're talking about cost of diesel, which is also a product effect of what is of the war in Russia and Ukraine. Then also late payment of subsidies. So most of these farmers run on subsidy. Subsidy in terms of subsidy for fuel, just like we have subsidy in Nigeria, subsidy in terms of input. So when this late payment factor comes in, it affects farmers. So farmers bear the cost of production. Then when government comes in to want to step down the price, it affects them, because what they're demanding is that, okay, you are not there to subsidize the price for us. You are not playing your part, and you want to still control the cost of the price cost. So it's not going to be that. It's not going to be very favorable. So it's not a win-win situation. It's like you are trying to get what you do not pay for. Like if you see the placard, one of the placard in the protest in Europe, they said, when you sow misery, you are going to reap anger. So when you're not playing your role properly, you're not bringing in the subsidy in time. Again, input subsidy and fuel subsidy. You cannot expect farmers to want to play by your rules or play by your regulation.
Talking about price control mechanism, there are those who argue that due to this development, there's a need for government to start fixing prices of goods and services. But we all know that globally, the economic practice should be to allow market forces to determine the prices of goods and services. How visible will it be, the attempt by some government to issue a template that has to do with price control mechanism? How visible is that? And what's your advice as regards allow market forces to determine the prices of goods and services? Will that help?
Yeah. Yes, it will help. Well, first of all, it's going to boost in production. People are going to be forced to go into production because market is about supply and demand. So if the demand is more than supply, definitely the suppliers will be at the determining factor of what price should be. But now, if we start having more supply, then we'll be forced to reduce costs because supply is more than demand. So, like I said earlier, when you look at, let me just take again an example from the wheat. We are consuming 6.5 million tons of wheat, producing only 420,000 tons. Then when importers import this product and want to sell, and government is trying to put in a fixed price, it's going to affect them. We talked about the high cost of dollar. But so when we give room for production, for competition, people will be forced into production. And now, when you take another critical look into what Indian farmers are protesting against, they're saying that the trade agreement between India and World Trade Organization, the WTO, is affecting local farmers because you are trying to create a platform where the world can trade with less of competition. And then, so export and import can happen. However, when this happens in countries that have incentives and subsidy for production, it's going to affect them, the local farmers, because they are bearing the cost of production. So most of this regulation, in one way or the other, have its effect. Again, we can, let's say, for example, in Nigeria, if you want to bring in price regulation, it can only solve our immediate problem. But on the long run, it has effect on our economy. Because when the production is not tackled, when we have not tackled production, we have not tackled mass food production, we have not tackled these cases of insecurity, we have not tackled cases of conflict, especially between herders and farmers. So when we bring price, what happens to the production line, the production chain? It stops, or it still fluctuates. Then, on the long run, we are still going to come down to the same situation where demand is still higher than supply. So the best bet for us in agriculture is when supply is more than demand. Then is where we can even talk about, it's going to now force the market price to drop. So the market shock, like I keep saying, market shock we have in Nigeria or in the world are based on some different factors, and these factors are these root cause are what we should look at addressing, so that we can have a balance and a market of equilibrium.
In Europe, the farmers are also protesting cheap imports. So those imports that are coming in that are cheaper than the produce in the country, how do you think those countries are able to manage to have the produce cheaply produced? And what can Europe maybe do to also have cheap produce?
Okay, not like I said earlier, these are countries that run on incentives for farmers, free tax for farmers, the free tax system for agriculture, then subsidy. For example, compared to others compared to other sectors in the business. So some of those countries have the agriculture sector is highly subsidized. Then the government are involved, not just in doing empowerment, a one-off empowerment, but constant empowerment in terms of mechanization, in terms of input. Like, you know, when you look at India, the government buy at minimum price, which again is the aim is to have safety net for farmers. Now the farmers are saying we don't want it on 2 crops, we want it on 23 crops, because it feels safer when they sell to the government, because the government buy upfront at the farm gate with better price. So when you see agriculture in these countries or regions, because of the incentives farmers receive in terms of, like I said, in terms of subsidy, and also subsidy for maybe cost of diesel, and also for input, they have cheaper product than countries or regions where the farmers are meant to bear the cost by themselves.
Now, let's still look at what is playing out in India, where the protesters are asking the Indian government to withdraw from the World Trade Organization and scrap all trade agreements. Do you see the Indian government yielding to this request or this the demands from the protesters? And how will this play out when you just have a few months to the election in India?
Yes, so if the government succumb to the pressure, it is just to win the election. It becomes political. However, I don't think, looking at the body language of the government, I don't want to be affirmative, but I will say that they're trying their best to use the media to educate the people. It's all about communications. One of the reasons why I'm proud of the United Arab Emirates government is their open system between the citizens and the government. So the citizens know where the government is going to. When the citizens know the direction of the government, it's easier for synergy. But when the government makes policy without involving the stakeholders which are the citizens feel they are out of the plan, out of the policy. It's like you are making decisions for us and you want to force us into this decision. I think the thing the government of India need to keep doing is to educate the people, to make the people understand that the agreement within the World Trade Organization and the country is to boost a good play.
Well, Rekenta, the glitch, okay, is back.
Yeah. All right, Emmanuel, please go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, can you hear me?
We can. Please go ahead.
Okay, so what the government of India need to keep doing is to keep educating the people, using the media, set the agenda for Indians to know why the government have to get into this trade. getting out of the trade is the Indians are, I will see it from their protest, the 250 union farmers coming together to protest is trying to protect an interest. Now, the interest of these farmers cannot outweigh the interest of the country at large. So it's about negotiations. It's about an open dialogue between the people and the government, and also to avoid future pain on the people of India. So I would say that it will not be too fair for the government of India to succumb, because the issues around food production of the food high price is not just peculiar to India. It's not just peculiar to Nigeria. It's a global thing. It's a global thing, and we need to just come together to see how we can creatively and innovatively solve these problems.
Even the farmers in Nigeria. There's also the complaint of being shortchanged by middlemen. Is there a way that can be checked? Having the people or having the markets, those who will need the food, the end users, having direct access to the farmers. There are farmers markets, but there seem not to be enough of them.
That wrong will do with a level of technology and also education, especially for countries like Nigeria. Most of these farmers are smallholder farmers living in rural areas, and some of them don't even have access to credit, meaning some of these middlemen we accuse are the one even funding these farmers at the rural areas. So that they fund the farmers farm for them, then they still come at the farm gate to buy the product already, to buy from the farmers, and also from the rural area, making them have access to this product at the farm gate. So if farmers can have access to credit from the government, then it's easier for farmers to now start detecting at what cost they'll sell the product. So let's say, for example, in my village, so we have middlemen who come to the village to give advance payment to oil production to villagers. So they mortgage their product for a period of time to be able to pay back these middlemen. To pay back these middlemen. So you can't just come tomorrow and tell them don't sell to the middlemen when the funds are already with them and they have used it to pay their children's school fees, pay their children, pay for health. Now most of these farmers don't even have health insurance, so they are still at the mercy of these middlemen. So for us to address this issue, just like the Indian farmers are protecting, one of their protects is pension. So imagine when farmers have pension, meaning it is highly formalized. Farming in India is formalized. So we need to start formalizing agriculture in Nigeria so that these farmers, one, can have access to credit, then also have access to maybe even insurance, health insurance, school insurance for their kids. Then we cannot change the setting. We cannot alter the ecosystem currently that these farmers are playing with in Nigeria.
Now, let's look at the issue of that waivers for farmers, which is part of the reasons farmers in India, are embarking on this kind of protest. Now, how is it going to play out in looking at the reality of the debt burden that some of these nations are battling with, are dealing with? How strategic will it be to grant waiver, and what will be the impact of this for farmers, and also the cost of doing this for the government or the nations that are involved?
Okay. When we do debt waivers for farmers, the direct impact will be reduction in food costs, because it's going to reduce their burden. I think when their burden is reduced, it is easier for farmers now for the market or government to play around the pricing of this food stuff. But when farmers are in debt, the cost of production is going high. Then we have also late payment of subsidies and incentives. We are going to keep having high costs of production, then which will result to high cost of living. So debt waivers are just to reduce burden, just like nations also ask for debt waive it. So that's just what is happening to farmers. The cost of production is currently high, and it's high due to cost of diesel, that is fuel, and it's a global thing. So when government pay attention to some of these plights, if not totally, if not 100%, a minimum, a particular percentage, then it will force also, it will have its effect also in the market, not just to the farmers, also to the consumers, to the average consumers.
Let's look at the green rules. Organic farming versus the use of chemicals, fertilizers, and other inputs. There is a reason why there's advocacy for the green rules, and the farmers also have reasons why they're objecting to it. But is there a way to have a balance?
Yes, the balance is we still need to keep running both concurrently, because it is very expensive to run organic farming. Like we said, it means zero pesticides, use of chemical, reduction in use of fertilizer, reduction in use of antibiotics even for animals, and it is quite expensive. It's quite expensive. So one of the things why farmers are protesting is that it is going to affect even their own product, even their own chain of production, because it will reduce crop yield in a way, but it is more healthier. And what the regulations are seeking to address is health. But farmers are looking at mass production, mass food production. So if we're not going to, if this regulation will affect the use of tractors, for example, so what we're saying in essence is that it's still going to be manpower driven, and it will affect the total yield, and it will reduce production. And still, at the end of the day, we're still going to come back to high cost of food price in the market, because production will reduce. The yield is going to reduce. However, we have more healthy food in the market than the one that is powered by chemicals, powered by fertilizers, and other antibiotics to animals for rapid growth.
It's time for us to go on another break now. We'll be right back to discuss more, looking at how this is going to play out in Nigeria. Stay with us.
My name is Veronica Nkechi Eze.
Charles Abana. My name is Professor Martins Emeje.
Professor Sylvester Odion Akaine.
Keep watching
Souq News TV,
the best news channel online.
It's elevating, it's enlightening, it's educating.
Muhammad Ali found his root in Africa. Jesse Jackson, O.J. Simpson, this is Black history. Andrew Young visit Africa in the late 60s. Legend, Bob Marley make the life different. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X are big names. They fought for Black Americans in the old days. We need the same revolution in our own ways. Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, Mr. Jay-Z, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre and Eddie Murphy. American prosperity ain't complete with African poverty. It's legendary Idris Abdul Karim, and you are on to Souq News. You don't touch that dial.
Tafawa Balewa Square, TBS. Tafawa Balewa Square was initially used as a horsing ground called Lagos Race Course. The edifice was constructed by General Yakubu Gowon in 1972 and named after Nigeria's first Prime Minister, Sir Tafawa Balewa. Tafawa Balewa Square is located at 45/57 Marse Bangboshe Street on Lagos Island, Lagos, and referred to as TBS. TBS is a 50,000-seater capacity venue and houses the Remembrance Arcade, the 26-story Independence House, which at a time was the country's tallest building. When Lagos served as the country's seat of government, the National Assembly Complex was within the TBS. Also in the square are the National Broadcasting Commission Office, the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency Office, shopping centers, travel agencies, restaurants, car parking lots, and a bus terminal. Tafawa Balewa Square is adorned with beautiful statues of white horses and red eagles, symbols of strength and dignity. Our historic neighbors include the King's College and the Holy Cross Cathedral. Tafawa Balewa Square hosted some of the country's memorable events, such as the Independence Day in 1960, when Nigeria gained independence from Britain, the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, which is celebrated annually on January 15. The edifice is a national cultural asset. Tafawa Balewa Square, Souq Enlightenment.
The challenge of governance is to see how we can leverage what is on the ground and convert this to wealth for the people.
Russia, China are gaining entry into Africa, and it would appear that some Western countries are losing out.
You're working as an expatriate worker, then you're paid in your currency. But then if you must spend those money, you need to convert those money to the local currency to spend.
For Social Security to work, we need to know exactly how many we are. We don't have a precise number. We need to know exact location of people.
When we address this exchange rate volatility, we will see definitely cost of goods and services will come down.
From a security point of view, we should employ the technology to ensure that we can track individuals and goods within the continent.
This is Early Exchange with Femi Ayodele.
You know, the Early Exchange is all about shaping policy and advancing development. With our conversation today, we're set to give you the best of programming.
And Blessing Aiche.
We do hope that you enjoy every time you spend with us here today. The world needs peace. The world needs to come to a round table and find solutions to the pockets of troubles.
Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Yes, if you're just joining us, we're still shaping policy and advancing development, looking at the series of protests ongoing globally as regards the cost of production and the hike in prices of goods and services. And we still have our guest analyst here with us. So we want to look at what is playing out in Nigeria. There's a plan by the federal government to establish a commodity board to regulate the prices of goods and services in Nigeria. There is also a court injunction, compelling the federal government to make steps to regulate the prices of goods, services, and some petroleum products. How this will play out, that's what our guest analyst will react to shortly. But before we have Emmanuel, we want to look at what is playing out in Nigeria globally as regards the cost of production, looking at what is happening in India, in Poland now. Let's come back home, looking at Nigeria. Here you have a situation where Nigerians are battling with the cost of production, looking at the cost of energy for petrol. Those who are depending on petrol, those who are depending on diesel to power their businesses and their manufacturing plants. You have a situation where they do not have control over that. You are aware of what happened last year, the removal of fuel subsidy, and where that's brought us where we are. You're now looking at the cost of fueling, now which automatically will add to the cost of production. Here you have, on the other hand, the federal government making moves to create a commodity board that will regulate the prices of goods and services. And you also have another court injunction, as the senior advocate Femi Falana had to go to court to compel the federal government to start regulating the prices of some of these essential goods and that of petroleum products. How this is going to play out? Globally, we're used to the fact that economic factors will have to determine the pricing. You know that what influences pricing globally or economically has to be the cost of production, which will determine the pricing mechanism. But you have a situation right now that the market forces are determining the prices of goods and services. Here, on the other hand, you have advocacy that the federal government should control pricing. How this is going to play out, let's see what Emmanuel will have to say about it. All right, Emmanuel, glad to know you're back with us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Now, critically, let's look at what is played out in Nigeria. Let me give you a background to what is happening in Nigeria. Are you aware of the hike in prices of goods and services? How Nigerians are lamenting, and there's also hunger in the land. Now, you have a situation where the federal government is considering creating a commodity board to regulate the prices of goods and services. And also, on the other hand, you have a court injunction compelling the federal government to regulate prices of goods. How do you see this playing out? How do you think the federal government will handle this kind of dilemma, and what might likely be the effect of this? Talk to us.
Okay. All right. Like I said, it's us trying to provide an immediate solution to the current situation in Nigeria, which is still, I would say, the problem we have in Nigeria is man-made problem, which are from predictions that because there is insecurity in some parts of Nigeria, which is Zamfara, down north, where we have the hub of, which is the hub of agriculture in Nigeria, because of the insecurity around these areas, production will reduce. Now, this production is even what is not even sufficient yet, and it's going to reduce. So the middlemen are hoarding food. Then again, because of the devaluation of Naira, the current exchange rate, which is how will I put it? It's something that is causing a lot of trouble in the market. Many of these farmers are looking more into exportation than servicing our local market. So when we look at price regulation, which is very correct, for me, I would say it is a progress in the right direction to stop the immediate surge of price, which is determined by the sellers, especially an interplay between the middlemen who have hoard food, then to their suppliers, down that's the chain of supply, which is from the middlemen, the wholesalers, the retailers, and all of that down to the common man. When we can regulate the current price, it is going to encourage customers, the consumers, to be able to afford food. However, it is not still determinant if the middlemen who have hoarded this food will bring it out, because they're also looking at profit. But when you take a good look at what happened during the Naira exchange rate, the new Naira design policy before the elections, there was no Naira in circulation. The POS merchants were the giants in the market, determining the price until some state government start interfering. So I think currently the government need to interfere. Now, when we finish when they interfere, we need to now go back to look at production again. See, the total Europe has 126 million arable land. Europe as a continent. Nigeria has 71 million hectares arable land, meaning we have more than half of arable land size of that of Europe, meaning Nigeria can feed ourselves and also even feed Africa, if not feed some part of the world. So we need to just go back to look at our line of production and see how we can, going forward, make it more sustainable so that we don't keep running in cycle. Maybe after this particular policy, we look at this, then tomorrow we are still coming back again to start looking at another emergency. Our solutions should not be emergency driven. It should not be too much of emergency driven. Okay, we need to intervene now. There's a problem. No, let us start having sustainable interventions so that the country economy will not collapse and run into market shocks that will affect the chain of production and also supply.
All right, on a plan to make Nigeria a net exporter of food, how's the plan going to come true? Because already for some farmers that are exporting food, some of the food exported from Nigeria to Europe or even to the US are rejected because they are said to be carcinogenic. And farmers will need to use fertilizers to improve the yield. What can be done to ensure that, first, there is food security in Nigeria before exporting, and then the quality of the food exported is accepted?
All right. So to achieve food security, I think the government, the current administration, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, even from the Renewed Hope document, you see his effort and his desire for food sufficiency, not just food security, food sufficiency in Nigeria. And I applaud what the government is doing. It also reflects even in the budget to the Ministry of Agriculture, that it reflects very, very high in the budget. And also the current steps the Ministry of Agriculture is taking in acquiring more mechanization, and acquiring more machines to improve mechanization in Nigeria. One of the things now we need to start looking at is mental empowerment of these farmers, empowerment of these farmers, especially the smallholder farmers that constitute over 60% of our farming population in Nigeria. Then also the use of the need for extension service workers. In Africa, Nigeria has the lowest ratio of extension service workers to farmers. And if this is not well addressed, we're still going to be having issues around our crop production, our crop yield in Nigeria. Especially when let me take an instance from cassava production. 1 hectare of cassava, 1 hectare of cassava in Nigeria is at 22 tons of cassava. For 1 hectare is like 22 tons. Why in Tanzania it's up to like 32 tons, the same hectare. So because we need to start engaging extension service workers to educate properly these farmers how to apply pesticides, as at when, the quantity, fertilizer, at what time, at when, so that when we go for for export, our product will not keep rejected because of either over or under, so that everything now be done accurately, modestly. When you go to some rural areas, the way they apply insecticide, pesticides or insecticide, these chemicals, you'll be amazed. It's not even hygienic. They're not even following safety procedures, even for themselves, putting their lives at risk. So then when we also talk about mechanization, we also need to start looking at the gaps. Our big challenge in Nigeria is data collection. Our data are more of assumptions. So it makes our interventions not targeting the right target to yield results. So if the government will pay attention in drawing more partnership with private, there's the private-public partnership to drive results, because the private sectors are result-oriented. Why more of our interventions from the government are more social-oriented, is about the people. So when we have this synergy together, we might be able to produce the results that are required in terms of extension service working, creating more organized, harmonized farming synergy. When I talked about cluster farming, we still need to look at cluster farming among smallholder farmers. Let's say, for example, Niger State, they have one of the vast arable land in Nigeria, and some of these farmers are still smallholder farmers. So when we come from clusters, empower these farmers, we're going to be able to drive results. Again, I said 71 million arable land in Nigeria, and we have River Benue. It's not just for East in the Confluence City, Lokoja. No, this can also be converted into irrigation farming. We are very low in irrigation farming in Nigeria. So we can, with our water bodies, instead of causing flood year in and year out, anytime we say the Cameroonians have opened their border, so it affects us. There's flood in part of Nigeria, there's flood and all of that affecting our farming system and all of that. We can convert these things to irrigation. So we can have both dry and wet season farming, and that will boost production in Nigeria. So our government needs to start investing in the right infrastructure that will support agriculture in Nigeria. Not just making promises, not just drafting policies, not just buying these machineries. And Nigerians have been buying tractors before now. The Ministry of Agriculture have been buying tractors before now. So for us to have this result, we don't just have commissioners, especially commissioners in some states. They'll get these tractors from the federal government, keep it in their farm to farm for themselves and for their friends, and even down to local government, they'll farm for themselves and for their friends. So that is even affecting smallholder farmers to have access to these interventions by the government. So we need to look at some of these things, and then again we need to empower ALGON, which is the Association of Local Government, in Nigeria, so that local government chairman can be able to empower their people. Because we talk about local government autonomy. It's not just autonomy to be able to have their hands in the pocket of Nigeria treasury, but also to affect their society, their communities, so that agriculture becomes profiting, agriculture becomes technological driven, mechanized, and also enhance youth participation in agriculture. There are some states where we have land reserved by government. What is the government doing with this land? So we should see how we partner with public sector to drive in agriculture. So what we're proposing to Kaduna State government is some of this land that you have reserved, let's partner with you. Give us young people. Let's draft an economy of production. We facilitate funding for them so they do the agriculture. Then we also now see how we can affect the market in terms of supply, because our supply must match up with our demand. And we have the land that can combat this. And I think this is one way we need to start looking at it in terms of enhancing agriculture in Nigeria.
All right, thank you very much, Emmanuel. We just have to leave the conversation there. You know, it's an ongoing development. We always have another time to talk about this. So we want to thank you for your time and for also sharing with us your wealth of experience on this issue. Thank you so much for your commitment.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
All right, we need to go on a short break now. We'll be right back to discuss the role of radio in community development in Nigeria. We're going to host a special guest. Who is this guest? You'll find out after this break. Stay with us.
Lateef Jakande. Born Lateef Kayode Jakande in the Ekpetedo area of Lagos Island, Lagos State on July 1929. He studied at the Lagos Public School at Enuowa, Lagos Island, then at Bonham Memorial Methodist School, Port Harcourt, King's College, enrolled at Ilesha Grammar School, where he edited a literary paper called The Quarterly Mirror. Jakande began a career in journalism in 1949 with a daily service and joined the Nigerian Tribune in 1953. The owner, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, appointed Jakande editor-in-chief of the Tribune in 1956. Jakande established John West Publications in 1975 after leaving Tribune and began to publish the Lagos News. He served as the first president of the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, NPAN. Jakande ran for election as executive governor of Lagos State in 1979 on the Unity Party of Nigeria platform. His administration was effective and open and implemented the cardinal policies of his party. He introduced housing and educational programs targeting the poor, building new neighborhood primary and secondary schools, and providing free primary and secondary education. He gave poor people's children education, and many of them are now very prominent in the society today. Jakande established the Lagos State University and constructed over 30,000 housing units. After the military takeover in 1983, Jakande was charged, prosecuted, and convicted of treason and later pardoned. He served as Minister of Works under the Sani Abacha military regime. He died in Lagos on February 11, 2021. Lateef Jakande was the first civilian governor of Lagos State. Lateef Kayode Jakande, Souq Enlightenment.
My name is Dr. Rafiu Oladipo.
My name is Baba Jalal Repega.
I'm Reverend Juliet Benite.
I'm Godi Odidi.
My name is Professor Oladokun Sulaiman Olarawaju.
Souq News is on the ground, loading.
Very enlightening, very educative, and entertaining.
Thank you to Souq News.
So I'm happy that Souq TV has come into existence.
I'm happy to be here in the Souq News.
I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel and keep watching news that makes sense.
As Browning said, one's extension of one's reach should not exceed one's grasp, or what is heaven for. And I think Souq News is doing that.
Africa needs a voice of truth, and Souq News has become one of them. And get ready, get ready, get ready.
And keep watching.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. It's a place to be.
Keep watching Souq News.
The challenge of governance is to see how we can leverage what is on the ground and convert this to wealth for the people.
Russia, China are gaining entry into Africa, and it would appear that some Western countries are losing out.
You're working as an expatriate worker, then you're paid in your currency. But then if you must spend those money, you need to convert those money to the local currency to spend.
For Social Security to work, we need to know exactly how many we are. We don't have a precise number. We need to know exact location of people.
When we address this exchange rate volatility, we will see definitely cost of goods and services will come down.
From a security point of view, we should employ the technology to ensure that we can track individuals and goods within the continent.
This is Early Exchange with Femi Ayodele.
You know, the Early Exchange is all about shaping policy and advancing development. With our conversation today, we're set to give you the best of programming.
And Blessing Aiche.
We do hope that you enjoy every time you spend with us here today. The world needs peace. The world needs to come to a round table and find solutions to the pockets of troubles.
My name is Dr. Rafiu Oladipo.
My name is Baba Jalal Repega.
I'm Reverend Juliet Benite.
I'm Godi Odidi.
My name is Professor Oladokun Sulaiman Olarawaju.
Souq News is on the ground, loading.
Very enlightening, very educative, and entertaining.
Thank you to Souq News.
So I'm happy that Souq TV has come into existence.
I'm happy to be here in the Souq News.
I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel and keep watching news that makes sense.
As Browning said, one's extension of one's reach should not exceed one's grasp, or what is heaven for. And I think Souq News is doing that.
Africa needs a voice of truth, and Souq News has become one of them. And get ready, get ready, get ready.
And keep watching.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. It's a place to be.
Keep watching Souq News.
The challenge of governance is to see how we can leverage what is on the ground and convert this to wealth for the people.
Russia, China are gaining entry into Africa, and it would appear that some Western countries are losing out.
You're working as an expatriate worker, then you're paid in your currency. But then if you must spend those money, you need to convert those money to the local currency to spend.
For Social Security to work, we need to know exactly how many we are. We don't have a precise number. We need to know exact location of people.
When we address this exchange rate volatility, we will see definitely cost of goods and services will come down.
From a security point of view, we should employ the technology to ensure that we can track individuals and goods within the continent.
This is Early Exchange with Femi Ayodele.
You know, the Early Exchange is all about shaping policy and advancing development. With our conversation today, we're set to give you the best of programming.
And Blessing Aiche.
We do hope that you enjoy every time you spend with us here today. The world needs peace. The world needs to come to a round table and find solutions to the pockets of troubles.
Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Glad to know you're still there with us. Yesterday, the whole world celebrated World Radio Day, a special day, February 13, dedicated by UNESCO to look at the role of radio in community development, and by extension, an opportunity for broadcasters to connect with one another. Souq News today, we have the privilege of connecting with one of the pioneer broadcasters in Nigeria, one of the faces that graced television, and she was there when radio started in Nigeria. We have the privilege of hosting this morning on Any Exchange the veteran broadcaster and the television goddess, Julie Coker. Glad to have you join us this morning.
Well, it's a privilege to be here with you. Thank you for having me. Good morning, everyone.
For me, today is looking like a special day.
It's a special day.
It's
I was going to ask you to sing me a song. since it's Valentine's Day.
Oh, interesting.
Somebody tried to do that this
Maybe
morning
before we
earlier
wrap up.
on. But it's okay. I'm delighted to be here. It's a pleasure, really.
Even if we're not going to sing, just know we have a special love for you. That's why we've decided to invite you and
Well
for you to
done.
be I guess we
Lovely.
can consider it to be a great honor. So yesterday was World Radio Day. Every year you have especially dedicated for that, which is February 13th, as provided by UNESCO. You were there when it started in Nigeria. You were the delight of everybody when radio and television started in Nigeria. Give us like a little account of how it started, your memories and
Yeah,
some of
that
your
was it.
the
Those were the
experience
days
you
of WNTV, WNBS. It was quite a mouthful, to say W. And we took a long time, getting to grips with how to actually pronounce the alphabet WNTV, WNBS. But before then, we had contacts with the old NBC, Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation, not commission. Everything has sort of, moved from our own early days. But of course, radio still is a pivotal force in shaping Nigerian society. We take this back to the age of the rediffusion. I bet you've never heard of anything called rediffusion.
We read about
Those were the little, contraptions that you had in people's sitting rooms, and everybody's life revolved around it, listening to, even the days of Baba Salah, they were on radio, and so many other things. That was how even the village headmaster evolved from radio. People knocked things around, to give the right sound effect. And for many years, the Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation then used to win awards in different parts of the world. I remember going to Algeria with a little production by a friend, Peter Ehu. But radio had been there for the Radio Broadcasters Association of the entire world before UNESCO decided that they were going to be celebrating Radio Day. But things had been going on. There was a competition, and NBC had been the winner of that competition for well over 20 years. And we were not really aware of this, but we knew that wonderful things were happening on radio. A lot of things developed in WNBS in those days. If you were working on TV, you had to have a program on radio. You either decided whether you wanted to do an English program or Yoruba program. You'll never believe that I chose to do a Yoruba request program.
Interesting.
And we started the program by saying Elembenwo, which is your way of saying hello or good morning. And my friends in Lagos, didn't come to terms with that for a long time. How could you be doing a program in Yoruba? But we had learnt a lot. And that was how you were able to reach the people in their homes, speaking to them in their own dialect and on their own level. So since the colonial era, when radio was introduced to Nigeria, I think it was during the war, and they wanted to communicate and recruit people into the Royal Frontier Force. People were recruited from Ghana across the western coast of Africa. And Nigeria, of course, Nigeria would always be there, in the forefront. So that was how radio was brought into Nigeria. And I remember that one of our director generals, Michael Olumide, he became director general later, but he was just a young radio presenter like you, and he had such a wonderful voice like yours. And he was the one that used to open the King's or the Queen's Christmas message every year. You would not believe that it's a Nigerian that did that. So that's our own connection with the BBC and other world affairs, because people wanted to listen to the Queen's message, and they would have to come for him all the way to Nigeria, travel by the BOAC to London to introduce the program. Now we present the Queen for her Christmas message. People thought it was an Englishman doing it, but it shows that we had become, you know, a very important, we played an important role in the development of radio communication, reaching out to the world and meeting so many people. We were very proud of him. I didn't even know at that time that I was going to become you know, have one leg in broadcasting, not to talk of my entire body and soul. He was not, you know, was a very friendly person, but because of this, everybody held in hand. The women who were reading the news on television, on radio rather, people like Ms. Tonwade Doing, Eno Souq, Marie Rekefe. At that time, when our women were reading the news in Nigeria, on the Nigerian Broadcasting Commission, women were not even allowed to read the news either on radio or TV in England. So we had actually, you know, blazed the trail in so many other areas, broadcasting. And all these are wonderful experiences. When I was in school, because of my relationship with I was very close to my cousin, Michael Olumide, and I thought one of these days I might follow him to the radio station. Like I said before, little did I know that I would end up doing anything, either working for television or even radio. So my love for television and radio date back many, many years. And well, we're still plodding along and praying that more people will be given their own license so that we can have community radios in so many areas. I walked into a radio station once in a place called Sapele. I don't know if you've heard about it. And they were introducing Robo high life music on radio. Prior to that time, people had, you know, their own little cassettes, but radio was able to reach out to people in that area. And the star of that high life Robo music became very famous, and he made a lot of money, and he was given a chieftaincy title because, you know, he was able to touch the lives of his own people, and that is how far the medium can actually reach, reaching deep down into the areas that even television cannot reach. Radio has been able to surpass all these other things, even though television thing that, you know, we are there, but still, radio, I'm sure, you know, has been able to, you know, meet a lot of obligations, touch the lives of people, give them the type of music that ordinarily they would have live, but they'll be able to, you know, turn a little gadget or have a little contraption, which was what they, you know, people had their own little transistor radios. Do you remember? Mm-hmm. Is there anything still existing like that?
In some parts of the country, yes.
Yes, in every part of the country. And sometimes, you know, you have your little guard outside the house and he's listening to his own station. You can't even understand what the message is about, but you know that, you know, he's enjoying himself. And so over the years, radio has actually played this role in the lives of the people around the world. Now, I remember that my late husband, Mike Enahoro, was given a radio license to start his own station in a place called Abafon. He didn't take it lightly. He wasn't very delighted about it. And I said, look, why don't you try and set up your own radio station and people will know more about it. I can't remember what the name of the station is now. They did very well, that they're still performing well, and other people have moved into that area, where even after he left the country and went to live in America for many years. But he already had the license, and when, you know, when government decided that it was going to share out licenses to various people. Even Silverbirds, who was actually at the forefront of, the request to government, to let people have their own stations and run them whichever way and give it their own personality touch, their own personal touch. Instead of giving Silverbirds a TV license, he was given a radio license, and that was how it got started. And that was how AIT also started. So many things have evolved over the years, and people have adapted them to their own needs. And I think the sky still remains, the limit.
Let's look at the evolvement of radio over the years. It's been 100 years of radio existence, a century. A lot of things have happened. You've talked about how radio was impacting lives at community level. Do we still have radio functioning very much at community level these days and playing the role that it used to play then, inform the people, be something that they resonate with? You talked about presenting programs in Yoruba language, and you would say it in a way that those listening could connect to because it was very familiar. Do you think it's still that way with community radio and with radio generally in Nigeria?
I think the media face a lot of challenge in the digital age. You still find that even when you have your TV these days, at some point you can press a knob and you're on radio. So that means that people are still conscious that radio still has a lot to play. There's a lot of challenge. I mean, my grandchildren don't want to listen to radio, of course, because they don't see any cartoon running all over the place like Nickelodeon and all that. But it's there, and they know that it's, and occasionally I would say, well, stop there, I've just heard somebody saying something, and, try to get them to listen. So it still has a lot of role to play. Otherwise, you have Go TV, and at some point, when you make a slight mistake, you're on radio, and you get somebody, really putting out some pulsating, sound from their own area. In the mornings, for instance, you can still hear people doing newspaper review in Yoruba on radio. Have you ever tried to listen to that? Oh, a lot of incantations and things. It's very exciting, particularly if you've learned Yoruba very well. You can still relate to some of those, voices and messages that are being, put across, gone into retirement. But in England, some people are diehard radio. You find them in their gardens with their little transistor radio, listening to their favorite programs. The interesting thing is that when you are doing drama, you hear a lot of banging, signifying that the door had just been opened, somebody had just walked in, or somebody was about to have a cup of tea, and someone knocked his leg on the table. And that is part of the drama that some people still enjoy. So radio is still there, and I think it's going to remain there forever.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So if the goddess has said radio is going to remain there forever, so shall it be. Now, let's look at standard now. During your time, your era, you had all the ethics for presentation and production. Now, if you are to compare that to now, that you have more of technology-driven production, and even AI is taking shape as well, are you worried that we'll get to a time whereby the radio culture will fade or the standard is going to decline?
Radio, I don't think that the standard will decline. Because if you think that people are watching you, you become a little conscious about either your appearance or one thing or the other. What's on radio, you can walk in with just wearing, sneakers were not known to be seen around. But on radio, you can walk in and do your own thing without being self-conscious. So that means that there are some people who are that way inclined, who feel that is the medium on which they are going to reach out to their own audience. They have their own particular, personalized, on-demand content, as it were. Because people may think, oh, you are going on television, you have to be spruced up nicely and looking very, dazzling like a TV star. But on radio, it's not that people don't care about their appearance, it's just that some people feel more relaxed when they are not being watched, when not too many eyes on them. I mean, when you're going on TV, you have butterflies, or it's like going on stage. But on radio, nobody sees you. You're more conscious about the content of your program and what you're about to disseminate, to people. So there's no time because I'm sure that over the years, a lot of people would have predicted that by now, nobody will be listening to radio. But it hasn't been that way. People still love to listen to radio. I love listening to radio, and I love when I want to reach out to, I remember my days on WMBS, putting out my Yoruba request program. I want to hear what they're saying. And I asked the driver to turn up the volume so that I can enjoy the program. There's a lot of music in the background, and some of them really like Fela's music. There was an occasion I thought they were going to play Fela. I said, why they keep repeating, stopping and starting the music? And the driver said, that is the theme for their program. That is the theme song. It just goes on, tan, 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 Fela's type of music. And I want the music to continue. But he said, no, they also love to listen to Fela's music. And of course, Fela sings a lot in the Yoruba dialect. So that goes on very well. Some people who would like to listen to that music would tune to that station, and that is a, character for which that station is well known for. The man who plays Fela's music, along with what the newspapers are saying. And like I said before, they will go on, and if they're talking about some of the Yoruba head of states, they will recite his title from here to John O'Groves before they even introduce the program, blah, blah, blah. So when you're familiar with that kind of presentation, that style, you will still be attached to that station. And some people will say, oh, bring me my radio station so I can listen to someone, eulogizing some Oba or someone. You don't have that too much. You don't have that much time on TV. But on radio, you can go on and on, enjoying yourself. So, and there are some people in some rural areas. There are some areas that have no electricity. What are you going to do? It's radio. Radio provides the answer. Radio is the medium of entertainment for them. So, well, you don't have to be old to enjoy radio.
But we're seeing different variations now of what radio presents. They are not radio stations where, with the advent of technology, we have people who are doing podcasts, doing radio-like programs, and they come as if it's radio presentation, different variations of what radio offers. Do you think that threatens radio?
Well, who's going to set the standard? Who is setting the standard?
Well, for social media and a lot of the new media, it's like an all-comers affair.
Many things
do what you
tailored
like.
to individual preferences. You still have that. You have a choice there. You can't take that away from people. You can't deny them of, what makes them happy. There are some people in England who've never seen television before, but they go to the theater religiously because that is where they derive their entertainment from. That's where they go watch the ballet. If you take some people to watch the ballet, they say, what are they doing there? What is all this about? But that is what keeps them going. That is what they want to do with their lives. That is what they enjoy doing. Once a month, a whole family will decide that everybody is going to go to the theater. Do you have that going on? We have a national theater here. We've killed it. If we had a chance, we would throw a bomb there and, you know, scatter it to smithereens. Whereas some of the theaters built in England, from the days of Shakespeare, some going on to 1,000 years or more, dating back so many years. National Theatre it should have been the pride of Nigeria. It should really be the pride of Nigeria. They should have radio stations in there, TV channels, disseminating information to people, making people's life better. Ogunde performed so many times in that place. And maybe I'll use the opportunity also to pay tribute to my late friend, Jimmy Sholanke, who died about this time last week. He was on radio, he was an artist, and a hall should have been dedicated to him, to the life of Jimmy Sholanke, because he did everything that you could possibly think about that relates to art, the theater, and, you know, he was a singer and everything. But we spend so much time maybe listening to juju music, Nigerians, particularly Lagosians, so that they can spend money and let people see how rich they are, how they can throw away money and stamp on it. And those are the kind of things that would be an abomination in some parts of the world. You know, nobody would want to trample on the dollar, for instance, in England. The sterling in England or the dollar in America. But we Nigerians enjoy just stamping on our own money to show that we have arrived. That's, you know, we are now, you know, the richest people in either their family or they're showing off to other people that they think are their enemies, you know. Some people believe that being at the theater is like being in paradise. Takes them back so many years. Who in Nigeria wants to listen to Shakespeare? Or who wants to go to the theater now? Except you go and resurrect people like Ogunde. There are still some people who will wake up from their beds and want to go and say, Ogunde is playing today at the National Theatre. But there hasn't been a follow-up to that. But let's bring ourselves back to radio again. You can play Ogunde's music on radio. You can play music of Ebenezer Obey, Shina Peters, Sonny Ade, and even some juju music of the past. There's some sections on radio where you can still listen to all those things. Or to classical music, for instance. It sounds better on radio, really, than on television. Don't you think so? I don't know if anybody likes classical music, but I do. And when you listen on radio, you don't want any distractions. You just want to stay there. If you haven't got your own, what do you call it, portable turntable that you can put on those. But the radio station still maintains that standard. And whoever is going to present the program knows his onions. He knows what he's about to deliver to you. So radio, to me, still runs, you know, side by side. The standard is still very high. People still maintain the right level. Sonny Donije, people like Friday, 4-Day of those days, Sonny Rabo. Sonny Rabo owns his own radio station, but he was on TV for many years in Second Chance. He was of course a radio presenter before he took on the role as a teacher in, I don't think you know about that. You've never heard of Second Chance on TV.
We've read about.
But he owns it, so I think he's one of those that got the license. And he's well known for his radio, you know, style of presentation. So someone who has gone, you know, all through the whole gamut of, you know, part of the communications medium, he will forever remain there. And people will he still has his own, you know, fan base that people still would like to relate to. Someone came to me the other day and that she wants a job. She just came from America and she wants to be a presenter on radio. A certain friend of mine, Miss Mbanefo, Ashley, She said, oh, I would love to be a radio presenter because I don't want to be seen on TV, but I know I have something to offer because she had done something like that on radio. So in America. So when she comes here, everybody wants to be a Nollywood actress, but she says it's radio for her. So this is a tribute to someone like that people still would prefer to be working on radio than on TV. And my own first contact with the communication media is radio.
All right.
I still remember all those lovely ladies who used to read the news, even before the news was read by women in England. And all the BBC pips, that was what kept us alive. We went to bed at 8 o'clock after listening to there's a jingle that at the top of the hour, da 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 da, and it goes on, and then you hear the pips, boom, boom. You can count. We know as little children we used to count down, and we know it's 8 o'clock now. We can go to bed.
It's quite interesting listening to you. But away from the World Radio Day, now let's talk about you. You started your career in broadcasting at the age of 16, 17, as I've read. And you became famous. And I would like you to give us maybe your experience. How were you able to manage that phase of your life where you became famous? You know, were able to manage the challenges that came with it? And then what will be the turning point for you in radio broadcasting if you realize that that technology has taken over? Then I also like to know what happened. You became popular at the time. Women were not popular on TV. You know, even radio broadcasting, they were doing more radio broadcasting rather than TV. How were you able to manage that phase, the stigma that came with it, and for you to be able to break that jinx?
Wow. I think I believe that whatever will be, will be. The future is not really ours to tell. As a little child, you don't know which direction you are really going. I thought I was going to be an actress because in school, first in elementary school, St. Mary's Convent School, we were exposed to the Festival of Arts. And, you know, that sort of forms the kind of, you know, what direction you're going to move. You don't really know, of course, you can't predict, or there's no soothsayer to tell you what you're going to be doing. But I know that in those days, some of our aunties, they would disappear from the scene and they say, oh, they've run away with the dancing troupe that came to town. You know, it happened. Can you believe that that kind of thing happened? Excuse me. Because they were fascinated and drawn to the stage. It was like magic. But for television, there was nothing like that. You know, if you wanted to go with Ogunde Theatre or with Ogunjobi, whatever, you would have gone to watch a play, or somebody would have shown you their posters. But for the way we went into television, it was just like, you know, a mystery. So nobody prepared you for anything like that. Of course, I took part in the Miss Western Nigeria competition and later on Miss Nigeria, where I came second. But the person who came first, you know, fizzled into, you know, oblivion, more or less. She was very famous at that time for like a year. You know, she was given a car and blah, so on and so forth. You never can tell the future. You nobody wants. These days, people promote their image on whatever you call it, social media, and say, oh, I'm famous, I'm beautiful, I've been married 10 times, 100, you know, I have so many children. And then people follow them because they are interested in doing. I never wanted people to know what I'm doing. I wanted to keep my life, you know, very secret. Not pretend to be a nun, of course, but you never know what is there. Even those who are trying to keep their fame, you know, or their style in the limelight, sometimes they cannot even sustain it for too long. But let everybody enjoy whatever comes to them, whatever anybody wants to do. When we went for the Festival of Arts, we did not want to go, because if you didn't perform well, like the Green Eagles came with just a silver, I came with a silver from the Festival of Arts, and I got a thorough beating in the school because the nun said you should have been going for the gold. So that's already, you know, gave me, I knew that if I said something on stage, people will listen from a very tender age. I was 10 or 11 when I went for the first broadcast, and the competition was won by an English boy from Coroner's School. I came from St. Mary's School and I came second, and that still was not good enough. A very high standard had been set for me, as it were. And then I went to Holy Child College, and we were taking part in plays, Chimes of Normandy, if I ever was the Loud of Tartary. You had that voice in your ear saying, okay, go for it, say this. People will listen because you did it once before at a very tender age. That was what propelled me, you know, into going into all those things.
So let's look forward now. Even as the world celebrates radio, 100 years of radio. So the federal government of Nigeria is pledging support for community radio. As much as they've been enjoyed by listeners over these years, some of them are struggling to sustain. Now, in what area do you think this support should come?
You need the whole committee to sit down at it. And you know how government work is. They would appoint someone to sit at the head of the chairman of the board of committees, and so many other people will come on board, and each one will be arguing about one thing or another, and you never get there. So whatever you want to say to them will remain forever in your mind or your dreams. There's nothing you can tell government in Nigeria that ever gets done. It's only by chance. When the English people came and the colonial masters came and gave us NBC, someone at some point decided that why should it be NBC? It should be FRCN. That's an abomination. Radio has been there for over 50 years, and relating to places like the BBC, the NBC of America, and CNN here, there, and yonder, and you come straight back and say, we're going to turn the whole thing around. Broadcasters have become full of themselves, and they have been dabbling in things that they ought not to be dabbling in. Someone come with an axe and just cuts the whole thing down. See what happened to the theater. I still go back to that. That is the symbol of the culture of a people. A lot of people, if they wake up, if there's a resurrection and they wake up, they wouldn't know where to, they wouldn't recognize what the theater looks like now. And that is the way of Nigeria. I'm not being, too cynical about something like that. It's just that we all have dreams. We just wait for them to happen. If it happens in Nigeria, we're lucky. We're happy. Sometimes we have, people who even entertain us before we can say, "Are you alone? Waka come." Somebody like that is entertaining people, whereas that is the kind of thing that gets people interested in what is happening in Nigeria. Standards can remain standard. They say, that's N.L. Well Brown, grammar too much, self, Why doesn't she speak like Zebediah Okori Igwe? People who are making, I wouldn't know what, comedians, I think, have a better chance of lasting and remaining in the limelight for a long time. Those who are trying to set standards, you want to speak English grammar. No, we don't tire for that one small. If we go London, I go hear English when they talk there, but speak to me. Now, there's a TV channel that have a lot of interesting contents, and people listen to them. But on weekends now, they say we are going to change to pidgin. I've just passed weekend. Are we going down or moving up? Do we want everybody to speak pidgin? Are we watering down the standards?
But don't you think that brings some variety
it
into
does.
it?
Of course, as long as you put a check on it. There's a little bit of check and balance here and there. But if you're going to be making it to turn some people away, then that is counterproductive. Still, we will still keep prodding on. We still have people like you, both of you, speaking good English to us, setting the high standards. There are some places you go, you can't even hear what they are saying. You can't even understand them. You can't keep abreast with what is the content or what the whole thing is all about. But we're happy that, we are here now and we're able to relate to ourselves and say what we need to say to ourselves properly. If people like Wole Soyinka had watered down their standard, he wouldn't have won the Nobel Prize. But he kept the standard going. Even at some point, the British found it difficult to understand what the death of the King's drama was all about. I saw him in London, and I saw the review in the papers the following day. Because the death of the horseman or so, they had to get the horse into the theater, and that made news. And that was one of the people say, some people say, why didn't they give it to another person? Why did they give it to Wole Soyinka? There's certain things that make people stand out, People set standards for themselves. A lot of people still haven't forgotten the names I've mentioned now. When they see you on the street, they say, oh, how is Bimbo Oloyede? Because she set a very high standard, when a performance on TV, and she still goes to lecture at the TV college. Occasionally, they invite me along as well. Well, I'm not exactly a busybody, but I think I'm... I enjoy...
What you're saying is
I do enjoy going
keep
there.
the standard of radio.
Keep the standard on radio, keep the standard on television. Don't say, okay, give us a little bit of pidgin here and there.
Okay.
We will enjoy it. I mean, I come from an area where pidgin is the lingua franca. My mother is from Warri, and I, spent some time there, and I speak the language very well, and I can speak better pidgin than anybody else.
That's interesting to know.
So if you invite me to speak pidgin next time, I would be delighted to join you.
Yes, good enough. We have Souq pidgin, so the next time you'll be here, it'll be on a Souq pidgin program.
Lovely. That's a challenge.
Okay. We'll hope to have that very soon. And it's been wonderful, very interesting having the famous Julie Coker here in the studio. Femi calls her the TV goddess, and I agree so much with that. To see how she's swept us off her feet, having her here has been breathtaking, talking about how radio's been, when it started, the experiences they've had with it, the fun they've had with it, and the impact that radio has actually had on the society. Thank you again for being a guest.
Thank you very much. Stay blessed.
Thank you for being here.
It's a wrap on today's show. Many thanks for watching. I am Blessing H. I always ask you to stay with Souq News. You have so much to benefit from Souq News. Wonderful programs that will come your way. Remember, today is Valentine's Day. Smile to someone, show some love. You could also give a gift, not just to your spouse. Remember, you have business people. You want to keep them coming again and again. Enjoy your day.
Yes, today is a special day for love. Love is a universal language. All you just have to do is to share it with everyone around you. Don't be biased about it, and also show sense of responsibility on a day like this. Don't forget, LXD returns tomorrow. I am Femi Ayodele. Bye for now.